Welcome, everyone. Yay, woo! My name's Josh Kalderimis, if you care to try to give it a whirl. You can find me on Twitter, of course on GitHub. I contribute to Rails. I look after a bunch of gems. I come from Wellington, New Zealand. Oh, that's a bit loud. Known for its beautiful scenery, its fantastic coffees, and its amazing wind. I've been on one of those planes before when it's been landing, and it's very funny because as you're coming in, you can see out the cockpit, and you can see, oh, there's the runway, there's the hill, there's the runway, there's a hill. I now live in beautiful Amsterdam, where we're known for our amazing use of bikes, our fantastic architecture, our nightlife, our recreational activities. And I work on a project called Travis CI. Along with my cohort Sven, who started this, and Konstantin, we normally talk about rainbows and unicorns and love on the beach. But today it's just me. And before I get started, I actually want to give a huge thanks. I want to thank two people, or two companies. I want to thank Site5, who's actually sitting down here at the front, for helping me get here. They sponsored me coming to RailsConf to talk to everyone here. On top of that, if you're a Ruby developer and you're looking for a job, shameless plug, go talk to them. As another big thanks, I want to thank Engineered for helping Konstantin get here to accept his Ruby Hero Award. Without these companies helping us out, we wouldn't be here today. And today I want to talk about deconstructing Travis. So part of this talk is about how we got started as a project, how our infrastructure has grown, and how this has affected new features as well. Also, what is the future? So for those who don't know, Travis CI, it's a distributed continuous integration system for the open source community. And if you could all do me a favor, since I don't have a gigantically filled room, can you all stand? Put down your laptops for a second. I'm sure you can find some space. Awesome. So, you know, just after lunch, we need to get some blood pumping. This is great. Great. Cool. I want you to stay standing if you test your code. Don't be afraid. There's always one or two. Okay, we're all perfect then. I want you to stay standing if you work on open source. It could be a commit, a little piece of documentation, just if you contribute to open source. Okay, cool, that's an amazing number, that's fantastic. I want you to stay standing if you use a CI server of any form. Could be at work, could be for open source. That is a bit scary. And finally, I want you to stay standing if you test your open source code on a CI server against multiple Ruby versions, and it's not Travis. Very cool. Great, thank you. That's a good start. This is what Travis is all about. It's to make sure we get more people standing right at the end. So what is Travis? Unless you've been living under a rock for the last year, we run your tests. You save it to GitHub, we run it. It's free, it's open source, it's open source. Anyone can clone it, anyone can try and run it, anyone can contribute. It's another piece of infrastructure for the open source community. We are for builds what Ruby Gems is for libraries. We currently have just over 10,300 open source projects using us. I mean, this is tremendous. This is everything from Rails to OmniAuth to Device to every small library out there to every big library. This is fantastic. We do 5,000 builds a day. In the last month, we grew 1,900 projects. We've dealt with 224,000 build requests from GitHub. We've done a total of 720,000 total test runs. So if you think about Rails, when they commit, that that build, or that request for a build, breaks up into 5 or 15 different pieces. In total, we've had 224 requests for a build, and that has resulted in 720,000 test runs, which is awesome. We support 11 different languages, everything from Ruby to Go to Scala to Clojure to Node to PHP to Perl. In the last month, we had 86,000 page views, 40,000 visits, 23,000 uniques, and we sent 1,300 emails daily. And if you see this beautiful little image about, that means someone is testing on Travis and they've been smart enough to put it in their README. This was all started for fun. It was meant to be instant, live, modern, hackable. But little did you know that Travis united two people. Back in the day, in 2011, this beautiful blog post was written, and you'll notice right at the top, you might probably not notice because it's very small. In February 2011, this moustache wrote a blog post. And this moustache is sitting right at the front. There is rumors that this moustache continues programming at night while Sven is asleep. There's also rumors that if you rub the moustache, you get 7 years good luck. There we go. This moustache bought me a shite shirt. It's what I wear today. It's what the company policy is. You have to own a shite shirt. And now wherever we go, we have awful moustaches and shite shirts. So I want to talk about how we got started and what our infrastructure has grown to. How has it been for an open source project to cope with this kind of demand? 10,000 open source projects, 720,000 test runs a year. How has that been possible? I want to tell a bit of a story as well. So if we start at the beginning, it's all about Sven Fuchs Travis CI. It just started with a simple Rails app. There was a rake task, and it ran a built-in worker that used resque. They both connected to a database, they both connected to push it, and they both connected to Redis. And it worked. And this is kind of what the architecture looked like. All of these squiggly lines everywhere. We had a dedicated box, we had Heroku, and this just worked. But there are two things we didn't really like. Well, there are many things that we didn't like that needed to be improved. This app had two concerns. It was a worker, and it was the web server. It was serving web requests for seeing what the page was, and we had the background agent. It was growing in complexity. It had an ever-growing test suite. We had ever-growing gem dependencies for the two concerns. We had things like SSH connections and active record models, and of course notifications. It was getting big quite quickly. So what we really want to do is, you see here, we had the two same deployments on two different boxes of the same project. There was no need to have them tightly coupled like this. So the first thing that we did is we had Travis Worker. And Travis Worker was all about running the build requests. It still used resque, but it no longer used pusher or the database. And it had an HTTP endpoint for communicating the log updates to CI, to the website, which would then send the pusher requests. So now we had something like this, which was much better. We had less coupling going on and a much better single responsibility. And you'll notice here, we've of course got two different repos. It was a huge improvement, but I want to talk about Travis Worker. So here's the Travis Worker, and we put it within a beautiful dedicated box, and it's running hundreds of builds a day. The first implementation of Travis Worker did no sandboxing whatsoever. It was just running straight on the machine. It meant that artifacts were left over, that we had DB records being left over, and it had gems being left over as well. And of course, logs. What we really wanted was some form of virtual machine. We wanted something that we could throw away and then spin back up afterwards and be a nice clean room environment. And what we definitely didn't want is for it to cost megabucks. We did not have that. We had the community sponsoring us, and we needed to keep lean and agile and keep it cheap. So we looked at beautiful VirtualBox. Now this is awesome. You can run this on your home computer. There's a beautiful tool called Vagrant, and you can start spinning up virtual machines quite easily. And what we did is we put this in a dedicated box. And it was a huge win. We got snapshotting, and we got to really take advantage of the box. We could throw multiple workers in one box with VirtualBox. It was a one-to-one coupling, but it worked absolutely fine. It worked well. But it wasn't perfectly ideal either. So what we did is, well, not what we really did, but Michael Klasheen joined the team. He had been working with us in IRC for a long time, and he was absolutely brilliant, and he pointed to us to, well, he was one of the core guys on Ruby AMQP, and he pointed us to Rabbit. And anyone here know of Rabbit and AMQP? We've got a few hands. Well, that's excellent. That's about half the audience. If you run your build, or if you watch Travis, you'll see a lot of this. You'll see cd build, bundle install. You'll see a dot. If you didn't see that, that's a dot. It's a single test, and this is what was being streamed from the worker. Every half a second, it would buffer what was being run on the worker and send it on up. And with every request being sent via the HTTP endpoint, we were getting all these HTTP headers. Now, if we think about logging is kind of like messaging. We send a beautiful moustache lane letter to Sven Fuchs with that dot update. We remove the necessity for all of these headers because now we've got a consistent connection to a broker. So we decided to take a risk. And I was trying to really think about how I describe this next step, because this next step was a bit hairy for us. We decided to move to AMQP. We decided to use jruby for the worker, and we also decided we needed to add a hub. We wanted to be able to take Travis CI offline, but keep processing builds. And this is what we got. It was a huge change. What you see there is that we had now the ability to add multiple boxes, multiple workers that ran multiple VirtualBox instances in them. It talked via RabbitAMQP to Travis Hub, and it also talked to the database. Travis CI also talked to the database and to the hub, to the Rabbit. It also listened to the notifications from GitHub, and it sent all of these updates via pusher. It was a very awesome outcome, but it was definitely not the smartest move to do all of this all at the same time. The execution for us, when I think about us going forward and making that change, it was hard because smaller changes are definitely better. That was 3 months worth of development for us. It was fantastic performance that we got out of the machines, out of this new infrastructure change. But man, the change was painful initially. We were fighting fires. But things got better, of course, and we smiled. We started with an infrastructure that was based around Ruby 192 and WebSockets, and we've moved to an infrastructure that uses 2 different Rubies, VirtualBox, RabbitMQ, and WebSockets. We went from 1 deployable app to 3 deployable apps. But again, we could do better. So if we look at this here, you'll notice that GitHub is sending the ping requests to Travis CI. Now, what if Travis CI goes offline? What if we need to do an update and something goes wrong and it's 30 seconds, a minute, or longer? It's offline. None of those GitHub notifications can come to us. Everything kind of comes to a standstill. Instead of the hub and the worker being able to work independently, everything is still reliant on Travis CI. So what we want to do is listen for GitHub notifications. So comes along Travis Listener. It is a small Sinatra app. It's nice and skinny, and it's got one concern. you'll see there we've slotted it at the top, and it now listens just to GitHub. We can take Travis CI offline, and it's going to stay up. Huzzah! Fantastic! But did you notice the issue? The issue is that Travis CI, or Travis Listener in this case, is still talking to the database. So, if we want to run some migrations, and the database is no longer available, Travis Listener is going to 500 all over the show. In fact, you'd really want to take Listener offline while you upgrade the database. Now, we're no longer listening to GitHub notifications. So we're sad. But it's actually quite a simple thing. We just removed that. Now, actually, Travis Listener is even smarter. It is even simpler than it was before. All it does is it takes the payload from GitHub and it pops it onto Rabbit. And then the hub works through that. It sees that as a queue of things to work on. And that made us nice and happy again. And if you actually look at this, if you look at this architecture for a second, this is really just service-oriented architecture to a certain extent. Has anyone read that book? Because that kind of scares me that we've got a service-oriented architecture for dummies. Like when I think of dummies books, I think of mum and dad reading books. I do not want to give them this book. Anyhow, it's mini SOA. That's my feeling. The trouble is that, well, the difference is that we share resources. SOA is you want to reduce the sharing and the coupling. You want these pieces of services to talk to each other instead of sharing a database, which means that if we make one change to that database, the other ones are affected. But all of this resulted in increased reliability, scalability, and maintainability. This was a huge progression in a small app that just started on GitHub under one person's name and has now grown to a total of about 13 different GitHub repos and 4 different deployable apps. But how do we share code? Because if you think about it, Travis CI, which is serving API and the web requests, and Travis Hub are still sharing a lot of common functionality. They need to talk to models. They need to talk to view logic. So we have the beautiful Travis core. And Travis core is encapsulating 3 main responsibilities. It's got the models, it's got some templates and notification logic, things like emails and pusher and anything that we need to send updates to. And if you think about how those dependencies work, it's just as simple as using your gem file. All we need to do is have the gem files rely on it. Now, it also means that we can now say that Travis CI and Travis Listener are using different rubies. In this case, we just use 192 on Heroku because it's simple, it works. We can use Unicorn and it's very performant. And on the hub and on the worker, we can use jruby because in the hub, we're making AMQP subscriptions that are long living and it's just processing them nice and fast. It's great. We've got a good garbage collection, we've got a good Java library to rely on, it's fantastic. And because of Bundler, all we need to do is require it in like this. Does anyone actually know of the GitHub shorthand? Yep, it's awesome. Like, there we go. It's like we just require in Travis core into the hub and Travis core into Travis CI and do a bundle update and we're away laughing. So how does this impact adding new features to Travis? Because we've got quite a complicated architecture now. We don't have just one repo that you can just point people to and say, make changes, go ahead. We've got different areas with different responsibilities. So I want to focus on pull request support. Pull request support was recently added, and if I want you to just think about it for 1 second, you know, let's say you're working on Rails, and you're saying to yourself, I need to add a new feature. So you fork Rails. You add this fantastic feature in Active Record. You submit that pull request, and you wait. And on the other end, Rails core wants to hit that beautiful merge pull request button. In fact, what they usually do is hit that merge pull request button and then wait to see what happens with the tests. That is not a good workflow. So then, our beautiful Constantine house, moustacheless this time. Did anyone actually notice he had a moustache? No, he didn't really. So most people will think that this is a very simple feature to add, but because of our architecture, it hits every single bit of it. For Travis Listener, Travis Hub, CI, and Worker, everything needs to change a little bit. And some things can change independently, and some things will need to change and then rely that the other things have already been changed. So if we think about Travis CI, we need to change the JavaScript, the CSS, and Ember. So now we've got, you might not be able to see it very well here, but on Travis you now have another tab called pull requests. You can see the builds that are specific to pull requests, which is awesome. Your build list, your build history, is all about you making commits. Pull requests are all about what's being built from GitHub in the pull request tab. Travis Core, on the other hand, we need to change models, logic, and notifications. For example, this is the new Travis bot. Travis bot will comment on your pull requests when they pass or fail. Travis Worker, we need to make changes to Git. Well, our commands to Git. We need to make sure that we fetch the pull request from GitHub. We need to check out a particular commit, and then we run the tests as normal. And then on Travis Listener, we need to now send a GitHub event type. GitHub, when they send a push or a pull request event, will have in the headers what type of event it is, and we need to listen for that. So this kind of architecture means that you always have to think before you start acting, and that's actually a big bonus. It's not just jump into the code, make the change, and wow, it all works and refactor. You need to think about what part of this change affects what part of my code base. It gives you a little bit more time and perspective, and it means that you're not just rushing in. But there's plenty to improve, even just about this feature. And we need to work with GitHub on some of this as well. But I really just wanted to point out really quickly, this makes me so excited at night. I'll be just quivering in my bed when I think about this. Travis Bot is awesome, because when you think about testing, it's part of a conversation. It fails, it passes, it fails. And you will see this in your pull request timeline with comments and new commits and everything. You will see Travis Bot right there telling you what is going on with those pull requests. So a little bit about the future really quickly. Sven, Konstantin, Matthias, and I have all been talking about how do we scale the hub. Well, one of the things that we've been thinking is logs. Logs are like streams. There's a fantastic Heroku blog post about this, logs as streams. At the moment, we send log updates as messages. You know, one dot is a new message. Bundle install is a message. But maybe we could treat it as a stream, like a TCP connection. Maybe we could just connect to the hub and send everything, and it will be fine. That is an interesting approach, but it's not as simple because we can't just throw Nginx in front of it. We can't just say you need to load balance this between 2 or 3 hubs. We need to now think how those connections work and how they discover where they're supposed to connect to. Should we remove the sharing of the database? Is that going too far in this kind of architecture? Is it going to give us a benefit? There's also been talk of maybe we merge hub and worker back together because, well, there's also smart queues, because we can't really scale the hub right now. The hub can't scale because if we have 3 hubs listening for one reporting queue for all of the log updates, then there is a possibility that one database query is a lot slower than the one before it or the one after. And this means now logs are out of line and out of order. So we now need to put the logic in there that the front end is going to order all of this together. But the real thing I want, or that I'm really happy about and excited for, is true VMs. I love how VirtualBox has got us this far, but I also want to stab it in the eye. Because randomly, VirtualBox will sometimes fail. Its API is poorly documented. There's very sparse resources online to find out particular errors or issues, and they will just die. If you ever go to Travis and you notice on the right-hand sidebar there are builds in there that never go away, it's probably because a virtual machine has died before it even started. And it's really frustrating. I want to get rid of VirtualBox. It makes me a sad panda. And we don't quite know what we're going to put in there just yet, but there is a mix between using maybe Bluebox and also OpenStack. We need a true VM architecture because then we can have a single build queue again. Then we can actually say, here is a Heroku VM. If you are deploying to Heroku, then you can test against a very similar architecture. We can have a 64-bit VM. You could test against Windows maybe. Imagine testing Rails against Linux and Windows. I think that is going to be awesome for all projects. But then finally, private repo support. We've nicknamed this Travis Pro or Magnum after the moustache. And it's coming along. We've already got a deployment out there. It's got 5 customers on it, 5 people testing it out. We're going to be opening this up to all of the company donators in the next couple of weeks. And then over the next month after that, we'll be getting everyone here who donated onto Travis Pro for free to try it out. So we hope to have more information on this soon, and just keep watching the Twitters and keep harassing us. And of course, if you know about the Love campaign, I do need to thank some fantastic, amazing sponsors that have helped Travis get this far. Travis is a community resource and can only happen with your help. So I want to thank people like Heroku and BendyWorks and Pusher and Wooga and Enterprise Rails, Arvitec, SoundCloud, and there's also Site5. All of these people helped us get to where we are to provide a resource for you. You can find us on Twitter, on GitHub, on IRC. We're in there every day. If you test on Travis, come and harass us. We've got some stickers. I hope we've talked about enough rainbows and unicorns and love and beautiful smiles. And you're awesome. And thank you very much. Any questions? Yes?
Can you elaborate a little bit more on how you handle dependencies between apps that you get data at the same time?
Sorry, can you say that once more?
The dependencies between parts of the app, where they need to be updated at the same time. Can you elaborate a little more on that?
Yep, so the question was, how do we manage updating dependencies of the apps when we've got, for example, Travis Core, which is used by Hub and CI? We, at the moment, have to just be very careful. We have to make sure that we have at least similar deploys out there. Sometimes the change might be about emails, and CI doesn't care about that. So we know that we can deploy the Hub, and we don't need to update CI. But maybe there will be a contract change in the messages, and then we do need to make sure that both are updated. We don't have any tracker at the moment. We do plan to have an internal tool so we can see what dependencies are live where and what the gem status is as well. Any other questions? Oh, yep, right at the back.
How do you get a shirt like that?
Shiteware.com. They've expanded their range. You can get shite shorts. I feel like I should get commissioned for this. We did send them a tweet. We said, we are going to wear your shirts on stage at every conference. Can you send us one? Nothing. Nothing. I don't know if I should be promoting or just a bit sad. Buy their shiteware and then tell them that you saw these guys wearing it at a conference. Yes, anyone else?
I was promised mustache destruction.
Oh, yes. Did anyone see the tweet where I said I'd shave off my mustache on stage?
Yes.
So I did get some people along for that. Is anyone going to pay for my mustache? Oh, if you donate right now, if you donate 200 or 500, which are the top plans, I will let you shave it off right now. I'll just do it myself then. You'll do it? Yeah. Come on stage. Can you start from, can you do like just half?
Yeah, I'm gonna do half. I don't want it.
Wait, so you should pay first.
I'm good for it. It's getting caught, so. Okay, there was my half. You can do the rest of it. But that was totally worth it.
Wow, that's gross. This is being recorded, isn't it? So, thank you very much, everyone. One very, very super last note. Did I get everything? Oh, nearly. That will do. One super last note. To big thanks to like everyone for coming along, for everyone for supporting. If you, where is it? Where's my clicker? If you feel like donating, helping us out, that'd be awesome. We've also got stickers for anyone who did donate. And for anyone who purchased the big and the huge plans, we're also throwing in the React handbook for everyone for those plans, along with 1 hour pair programming with people like Yehuda and Jose and Tenderlove, and 2 hours for the top. So we're also around for the rest of the day. If you've got any questions, come yell it out. Great, thank you.